Hey everyone, Matt here. Just a quick heads up on today's episode. Today's recording was absolutely fraught with technical difficulties and poor internet connection, mostly on Nuala's behalf. This remains up until about the 28th minute of the recording, so apologies in advance. I interrupted, as you were.
Very excited to speak to a sister from another mister, Miss Nuala Walker. Welcome.
Hello, everyone.
Oh, we got there today, didn't we? Jeez.
It's been a journey.
So I wanted to get Nuala
Technical.
on, as this is the first day, when this episode comes out, the first day of the Lunar New Year. And I want to get into that because no one else is talking about it, Nuala. So last year was the Yin Wood Snake. Now we're going into the horse. So can you explain to people what that is, what that means?
Yeah. Well, it can mean a lot, not much. So it's up to you how you want it to, how deep you want to go. But we can think about, so from a Yin Wood Snake to the Yang Fire Horse, we're going from the Yang year, or the Young year. And so we're moving from slow to action. And then are moving from action. What else would we say? We could say activity, movement. We shine rather than nighttime. But yeah, movement is the big when we think yin to yang. And then we want to go from wood to fire. So the way I see the wood is that the wood is sort of like wood. It is with a little sprout, and then it transitions to, by the end of the wood year, we're at forest. We have a full-blown forest. We have hit our we've moved through childhood, we've moved through puberty, and we are now grown adult, and we are transitioning into full fertility, full fire. So it's like warmth, it is energetic, it is exciting, it is it's just full of happening. So then you've got the yang and the fire together, which you say is full of joy and innovation, spontaneity and curiosity. And then you've also got the horse. So the horse itself sits in, is actually so energetically aligned with more young energy. So more going. When you look at the I Ching, which is where the basis of all the Chinese astrology comes from, we look at the difference between we have these 6 lines, and yang of yang is a solid line, and the yin is 2 lines and 2 lines. So with the horse itself, it has 5 straight lines, 5 yang, and 1 yin. So when you think of the yin yang symbol, the horse essentially is one step from yang, full fire, and it's almost like the bud of the yins come back in. So we are we are at a numerological, we're in a 1 year from a sort of Chinese medicine correlative to the yin yang icon. We're actually we're at the full expression yang, but we're actually starting the back. So once that is the case, we've got to remember in the full action as well. Here in this vibe is going to be all about outward expression. It's all going to be about action. And then you've the horse itself, which is this sort of lively and exciting and has the potential for chaos and panic. But we then correlate it, it's very much kind of an action year. So we're likely going to feel that the whole year itself is like celebration. It's celebrating summer solstice. It's celebrating, it's action filled, and it can take us in all different directions, but it's also, it's very warming. It should be very warming. Only thing we what I've noticed in reading all of other people's takes on the year is that the horse is like going to come out running and you're going to get fast pace and you're going to get going. But I would say that we've just gone through a meeting, like we have spoken about before, the snake year, and the horse itself, whilst it's action on fire horse and everything is very young and action filled, I think the overarching theme is almost more this warmth and this like kind of like action from the center. And you can choose whether or not action from the center, just like a horse. If you're going to horse, if you're going to like presume that they know what mean or want, then that you're going to have a different experience from a horse. However, if you really think about horses, they are like majestic, magical creatures. They are one of our closest allies as humans. They are intelligent and they are brilliant at what they do. And more that we come in connection with horses, if you speak to horse people, they will tell you just how profound it is to have a relationship with a horse because of their intellect and because of their majesty is the one to mind. But there's something really warming and nourishing a horse. So I like to stay focused on that energy. And so it brings me back to the heart. And the fire itself is correlated in a 5-element heart. And the heart itself is all about connection. It's also about correlation to the Shen, our soul, and or our soul's soul purpose. And when we think about heart-centered movement and heart-centered value, it's almost like we've shed what was no longer serving in this next timeline leap. And now we have the potential to really get out the gate and get going with what's really in our hearts and find the joy of that. And personally, I can see in different areas of my life that if you didn't shed enough through the snake year, you're going to blaze that last, and it's going to create a bit of a panic and a bit of shock. But if you were able to kind of slither away and kind of have allowed the year to release what needed to be released, this movement of the horse doesn't need to be running and galloping. It may be, and there may be times of that. We also are actually in what we call a period 9, which is related to like a feng shui, slightly different lineage to just straight I Ching. But a period 9 started in 2024, and that also kind of adds another layer to Yang Fire Horse year, which it's kind of still the ending, if that makes sense. So the period it's got a long period of time. That was from say 2024 leading forward, but doing some research on the period 9 because that's coming up for the feng shui perspective. It was quite interesting. It's quite feminine driven, whereas obviously the young fire horse is very young, whereas we see feminine as more yin. However, what happening in these sorts of yang fire horse years with correlation of a period 9, it's almost like this unsettling like band grip for the feminine. So the last time we had this experience was B6, and that was the Industrial Revolution. So went from tending to the land, being one of the seasons, moving and gently floating in that way, and being really in alignment with young energy while staying in synchronicity with their feminine. So they were in alignment still. That revolution changed everything for the woman. She now had very, like, you couldn't take a break when you had your bleed. You couldn't take a break when you were pregnant, or like you rear your children for the first 7 years of their lives. What is biologically normal was thrown out the window in order for the revolution to take place. This is that another one of those where the feminine uprising can go one of two ways. It's one of those years in correlation to all these layers. It's the Yang Fire Horse year. It's the Yang Fire Horse year within a period 9. There's the women, you may, that whilst it all comes down to balance always, and everything is going to feel excited. And I would say go with those feelings. Focus on the joy. Start to really enjoy and encompass the warmth that this year is to offer. It's going to be a very family-oriented year. I think that is where it can be so much that we move like wildfire, and that goes up. Fire like can terrorize, and what goes up must down. So eventually the fire will burn. So there is that potential for burnt within a fire horse year perspective on what that orientation of the heart center fire element is providing for us, with along with that horse energy going, can keep that action up, remembering that whilst the energy of, say, remember when we've spoken about this previously, we have us within the system of our people that we have surrounding us, wisdom of the collective within the system of the galaxies. And all those layers intertwined with what is best working for us.
So you mentioned
Personally.
how women were affected. What about I guess you could say, the feminine aspect in males?
Well, I think what we're already seeing is that there's a trend from systemic overrule, like that hierarchical, that's going to has the potential to be dismayed. And that's also in alignment with the human design 2026, 2027. So 2027 being the beginning of the new, I think that it's called the sleeping phoenix. So it's like the cross changes. And I am not too human design, but 2027 is, from their perspective, is the new. So the way that AI has infiltrated, no one's like, there was a bit of pullback. We both had that feeling of like really want to be involved with AI. And then now it's kind of just happening. And you can decipher the good and the bad. I imagine it was the same as when people went from horseback to driving cars. It just happened naturally. There might have been a bit of pullback in the beginning, and then you just flowed. And that was the way that was decided by the collective. And I think that's going to happen at a rapid pace. And so systems, like, we can look at what's happening in America. I think you can look at it in perspectives, but the power of actually pulling the country out of, say, the World Organization, or the power of questioning the big pharma. Now, it's not necessarily having it's having a massive effect, and it can do the pendulum swing thing. Have the fire horse energy. I would see wildfire. It can obviously create fire, create disharmony and dysfunction. But with the fire itself, once it's going, we don't have the capacity. As you may have watched on the news, there was fire a few weeks, about a month ago, and that was happening. We didn't really have, like, people could do what they could for themselves, but you can't contain the wild as one person. And actually, very interesting of us correlatively, I did a session in a new sort of learning that I'm a part of, which is called Bio School, with Annalie Jane Brandon Bosworth. And they actually I did a call the other day with Sean, and he was explaining like what we've spoken about wordsmithing and the power of our words and being really conscious of our words and the way we use them. And this is going to be a very important thing, very important basis to function from is the way we use our words, and the more solid, the more clarity we can have with our words, the more power and expression and abundance we'll experience. Remembering the heart, whilst is our centerpiece, it is our joy. It brings us all of that, like the culmination of all that joy comes together. And so when we think about how we reflect the world back to each other, we're going to find that this year will activate. And so depending on and the piece I wanted to get to in that perspective was that it's about ourselves and what we can do within our power that actually is going to make everything else collectively ripple. So I think it's the year, whilst it's a very action-filled external year, remembering that the heart is the leader, and the heart must go first.
Okay,
in
so
all any.
what I'm hearing you say from last year to this year, last year was about shedding the skin of all the shit. Then this year is about, once the skin has been shedded, moving into that, embodying the new cycle, the new goal, the new dream, whatever that is. How would that, from your perspective, I'll give you 4 different levels. How would that first show itself or play itself out in the horse year? First, from the personal interior and then the personal exterior. So the personal interior being within yourself. Personal exterior would be you in relation to your little tribe.
Yeah. Okay. So the person interior is going to be very different from person to person. So the way the Yang fire horse is impacting me personally is going to be different to how it impacts anyone because of my alignment. A few different frameworks I came to understand was, for me, say numerologically, my year starting on my birthday is actually 2 year. It's kind of telling something different from me. And then there's also, a few different layers that I was working with. And what I identified was, personally for me, it's a matter of just enjoying the year and allowing the flow to flow. So it's not a year for big expression for me. It's not a year for like galloping forth and creating something new and like in charge and actioning things. It's actually a year for me to just go with the flow. Endingly, when I was, I like to choose a word. So last year, my word was miracle, and I created my alter ego Miracleina and all of that. This year, I was trying to choose a word, or just had put that into my mind, and the only word that kept coming up was joy. And I thought, sure, I like the word joy. That sounds fun. And then when I was doing my research for like understanding what the Yang horse year is and all of that, and then obviously correlating the fire to the heart, what is that? That is joy. So it's kind of is this like synchronicity that just lines up perfectly. But for me, it's this focus is essentially, or to enjoy the year is going to be the most correlative word for the Yang fire horse year. And, really vibing what brings joy. So in that fire essence, action essence is kind of like, being really connected to that. So I just remembered what you said about the men. It's not necessarily, I wouldn't focus from my perspective on the feminine of the masculine, so the yin aspect of the masculine or the man. Sorry, I wouldn't focus as a man, as a masculine man. I would not focus on my feminine and what's happening there. I would focus masculine. And for a man in that perspective, the yang fire here is going to give you courage. It's going to give you creativity and innovation. It's going to give you the drive that you might be seeking to actually get the job done, to reach. So that personal interior as a man living in today, you would want to take this energy and go with it. Utilize the feeling in that fire that's desired, that's within your heart, to maintain your territory, which is to support your family, support those around you, like what did you call that? The personal interior. So you're going to utilize and cultivate that energy that's already here and feel it develop with you and get your line, get actioning. Of course, there's still going to be a personal interior gone there too, so which might not suggest that. So I guess that's where you might want to find your own personalized framework that you want to move from, whether that's your astrology framework or your numerological framework. But we will probably find going to be more of that summer solstice, joyful, party kind of exciting energy. So utilize that, and then I would inject it into whatever ambition you have. And that is going to be, I would say, more easy. Now, a boss girl, different story. She might actually be able to cultivate this energy, really hype that up, powerhouse forward, and utilize that. I would do that gently, because you're still biologically female, and so the energies are going to be different. But if you are a woman that is of childing age, this is a perfect year to put down the pen and move yourself towards that. And any creative energy and juices that are going in there are going to move themselves up and down through the heart, that on my channel, Heart to Womb.
You mentioned it was a 2-year for you personally. How did you get to 2? Okay.
So you would have the same.
Yeah.
You'd be
2's where it's at. Okay, so we've talked about the personal interior, exterior. What about the collective interior, exterior?
So the Yang Fire Horse year, from a collective perspective, is we're going to see a lot going on. We're going to see a lot of activity. We're going to see a lot of movement. And I would dare say that there will be a lot of new businesses for a lot of men out there are going to they're going to get going. They're going to cultivate this energy, and we will see women, I believe, step back and move towards that more heart center and understand, okay, what actually is important to me? What do I need? What do I really want to be a part of? And I think the movement has started from the grassroots and the kind of what would you say, smaller, more like fringe groups. But I believe we're going to see that come to the more mainstream, where women are actually, there's no more full-time work for a lot of women. They actually say, you know what, I want to be with my children, if that is the case, or I want to set myself up so that when I have children, I'm set up for myself and I can support them with obviously the support of my partner. But I can imagine that this year we're going to see a lot of movement in the direction of more heart-centered practice. And from a biological standpoint, women are going to want to be around family. They're going to want, there's going to be a lot of love. There's going to be a lot of partnerships, relationships, either coming together, breaking down. We're going to see that happen because that collective energy is excited and joyful. And what do we do when we feel good? We move in like a more upheld space. We move with more vigor and excitement and spontaneity, but with spontaneity with focus, because it's coming from our center. It's not coming from okay, just jump. And if you do feel that this year, probably shouldn't jump. Probably not the time to do that. It would be an idea to steady on, slow yourself down, breathe, and be like, okay, is this the excitement that feels good for me? Because obviously we have the potential to tip over into manic, into the crazy horse, crazy eyes, like freaking out. So I imagine the people that are already freaking out, watch them freak out more. Watch the collective freak outers, so the news, watch that vamp up, but then watch a lot of people go, you know what, that actually doesn't connect to my center. And now I'm feeling that fire burn from within my soul that tells me this isn't correct. And I imagine these are the sorts of systems that over this next 12 months that will be broken down, and then, Blockbuster to Netflix, or Walkman to Spotify. Like those sorts of really smooth collective transitions that just sort of happened almost overnight. Those things are going to continue to happen. But I would say that we're far from that sort of transition, because you'll watch the people that are already being on our freak out, preying on the humanness of fear and preying on those things. They will start to lose their power, because the collective is going to rise up from a heart-centered, action-oriented place.
I just hope that acting from that heart-centered place, people have clarity on, I guess, what's going on in their heart, and not mistaking it for their head, and have it egocentrically driven. Yeah, so talking about moving from the heart, I just hope people are really clear on what is in their heart and not acting from their head. Because a lot of people acting from the ego is a bit of a paradox, because the ego is mostly made up of other people's opinions. I know psychological research suggests that only, I think it's 2 or 3% of thoughts that we think consciously are actually our own. So I just hope, for people's sake, that the horse can serve them, or at very least bring to light on where they're moving from. Because as you were saying, moving from that space of joy, moving that from that heart-centered place, the journey can only get clearer with clarity. That if you're moving from that space and it's not heart-centered, then that's ultimately going to create burnout, is it not?
I think we can put it like this. If we think that the ego is there to protect, so everything that it is moving from likely is a place of inner, unknown, potentially unknowing fear. So then if we think of it from that perspective, that the ego is managing the threat, and therefore if we action from a place where we're fearful or we feel threatened, then that's never going to be moving from heart center space. But when we think of our heart from this idea of, say, joy and full divine presence, and the movement that comes from that is always it is always with warmth, it is always with connection in mind, it's always in activity, not reactivity. So it's pretty clear, like really truly my perspective is it is very clear to know what is when our ego is online and when our heart is online. Now, my perspective is that even if you haven't got the clarity of the direction you're taking and you're taking some risk and a sense of fear is filling you with doubt, concern, discouragement, you're not getting enough of the kind of tangible yin material. Yes, I've done the right thing. Yes, I'm moving in the right direction. On an intimate, personal level, then I do truly believe the collective it's going to divinely recourse you in that direction. So it's like that is the power of the yang fire force, is to trailblaze, and as a collective has the ability to wildfire burn out the non-heart centered, non-uniting, clarifying actions that could be taken. And I'm choosing to hold that perspective instead of thinking that someone's ego is going to be propped up and driven in a fire, like, with that, big pompous fire way. I think that we have been misled to believe that fire and action and activity is almost, it's going to go wildfire. It's going to go in the wrong direction. We're not going to be presence focused, but with the horse as well, I do think that we have an opportunity, and the collective is going to push that way. It's going to push you to be more heart centered. And even I actually deleted Instagram and Facebook and things because I couldn't keep them on my phone because my phone is full. And I didn't want to pay for iCloud. Anyway, so I've kind of held off on all those things. So my phone stopped working. So I've had to just delete apps that take up too much space so that it keeps working in the most simple form. And what I've noticed is that when I've popped back onto Instagram, I'm almost like, oh, there is so much information on here. And it is, and it's moving in rapid speed. But what I did notice the other day was there were 3 or 4 algorithm-based information pushed towards me, obviously. But it did say that numerous people are sharing and resharing, and from all walks of life, this idea that we're no longer in it for likes and external validation. And we're actually, more and more people are like moving towards that. What feels good inside of me? What is my own blazing path? What is like lighting me up instead of what is everyone else lighting up? And this also was brought up in another conversation that I was having, or that was being had in one of the calls I was on the other day, which was specifically, if you are focused on the likes, the views, the momentum that you expect with, say, monetary gain and things like that, if that's what you're focusing on and it's not looking the way that you expect it to look, you're actually seeking external validation for your value and worth outside of yourself, which I know personally I've done for years. And now I feel, with the shedding from the snake and the movement into this new course year, I truly sense that those things are no longer important, because I've found value and worth within myself once I've let go and shed the identities that were actually draining me and depleting me and putting pressure on me. So I do really, really believe in that power of the horse year being really prominent, and it's going to be difficult for the ego to take charge this year, unless you want it to.
Just
But I
depends
feel like
whatever side of you, what part of you want to nurture more, the head or the heart. They say that's the longest journey you can make. It's only about 1 foot long, but from the head to the heart is the longest journey we can make.
Yeah, and I'd like to say, like, make it easier, make it more simple. It's actually the closest also. Think about it, it's so the heart and the head are there. They're right there. So we can flip that script as well, and we can readjust that energy to be more affirmative, readjust the words that we're using there, right? I understand it could be a hard journey, but how about we just turn that on its head and say it's the easiest, fastest journey if you want to make it. Choose
Mm.
today, keep choosing every day, keep focusing on what the heart wants and yearns for. And I have to admit that I have found a new form of peace. It's like layers and layers of this peace and deep gratitude that keeps pouring through me. And it is like a layered onion in the way that I was seeking my shadows and my, you know, the hard bits about myself and my lack of self-worth and my the icky envy that I would feel for other people, or the things that the competition that I would find myself a part of. And then the more that I peeled the other onion, which was more, say, a rose or a lotus flower,
Mm.
it feels like that just keeps growing and flourishing. So I can decide which layers I want to peel, like how I want to see the layers coming off. Do I want to dig deeper inside myself and find more compassion and more joy and more heart-centered energy? Or do I want to focus on finding more and more on unpeeling those shadow places, finding that inner ick within myself that the ego has been driving to protect me from feeling ever again? I think we have a choice there, and that, I feel a bit passionate about that at this moment, just to, reinforce that you have that choice every moment of every day. And I think in those personal, what do we call that? What did you call that? The personal interior. If we just focus on our personal interior and our personal exterior, we cannot really go wrong. It's when we start looking towards how can we impact the collective? Well, if we're not powerfully and positively impacting our personal internal and our personal external, then there's no way we're going to make a positive impact on that collective around us.
Well, I think if we're not doing that for the personal interior, the collective will just mirror us back to ourselves and show us. And I think there's a Carl Jung quote that said, the world's going to continuously ask who you are. If you don't know, the world will tell you without you in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Shifting gears a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you some tarot concepts.
Oh, yeah.
And can you round that out with the TCM equivalent or thing?
Maybe.
So it's a 10-year, right?
A 10-year?
10, it's a year 10, like
a 1.
Well, it can be 1, it could be 10, which is 10. In tarot, it's a year 10.
Right? Oh, okay.
Now, in the minor arcana, there are 4, and then there's the major arcana. So I'll quickly just run through the minor arcana. So you got 10 of Wands, 10 of Cups, 10 of Swords, 10 of Pentacles. The 10 of Wands it represents the overextension, the burden, and the carrying of too much responsibility. 10 of Cups symbolizes emotional fulfillment and domestic harmony and joy. Now, each one of these contains both polarities. So let's say the reverse and the upright side. 10 of Swords signifies a painful but necessary ending or rock bottom, which also allows for a new beginning. And the 10 of Pentacles represents long-term success, financial stability, and family legacy. Go.
Okay. Well, yes. So it seems like in that sense, the 10 is a very momentum-filled and rich year. And there's a few things there that are correlative to what we've spoken about in the Yang Fire Horse year in terms of the family and the joy from the Pentacles and the other one. But it's also sort of that cusp moment, right? So
Mm.
when we start again, when we when say the 1 or the 10, like when it begins again, it's like, fate meeting free will, this like moment of trust, this moment of falling in to allow life to bring us back. And I do really think that, yes, we have that opportunity to go from, um, kind of letting go of that dark shadow piece, or like growing from that wood space, like growing up, seeing all of the opportunities, seeing the opportunity that is around us, and actioning and moving forward with it with the joy that it is exciting within us. It's like we're gonna feel that momentum, but um I think that, yeah, I don't have too much knowledge on the arcana and the 10 specifically, but I feel like it's like that, it's almost like the spinning wheel. Like, it's kind of like, well, where do you want to go? Where do you want to go from here? Where do you want to start again? Where do you want
Well,
to be?
it's funny you say that, because 10 in the major arcana is the Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah, right.
And it's basically representing the point of transition, right?
Mm. Yeah. So it was kind of like, I think that the big thing is like with this idea is like, we don't want to force anything. We don't want to chase that momentum. We want to feel it. Like when you're about to catch if you're a surfer and you're laying on the board and you're paddling, like you want to paddle, you want to put in that energy, that action, but then you want to feel that momentum take you. And until you feel that momentum lift you and bring you forth, well, you've either chosen the wrong wave, so poor wave choice, which is personal, or you don't have the strength and capacity to put that much activity and effort in. So it's being really, which also could come back to that same point of personal choice, was you put too much where it wasn't meant to be. So I think in that perspective, like instead of grabbing at things or chasing this momentum, let that wave lift you and take you and cruise you along, and then you can see the direction, and that might be the following the direction of your heart. That might actually be giving you that discernment of like, hang on, am I choosing this? Am I forcing this? Am I grasping at this? Am I kind of pushing myself? What was that thing, the ego that you, am I feeling that I need to protect myself? Am I armoring up? Or am I allowing myself to almost be in this moment of like full fulfillment and allowing this like almost fearlessness to just like ride me and push me in the direction? And I think for us as like within our 2 year as well, within say a 1-10 year, we're kind of being like, we do sort of need to allow that momentum. We need to allow it to lift us. For you, obviously, as a masculine man, you're going to feel that I think that wave, that lift is going to push you to action things that you've been putting off. It's going to push you to lift yourself out of maybe the like victim mindset in some way. It's going to it's going to expose that so that it's like ready to be released. And so you can trust again. And so that might be where the wildfire comes for people, might be that, it's going to be a bit of a course correction potentially, or like an unfolding, the potential for the year that changed everything, because it is like, in many ways the renewal. It's also that heart center. So it's giving us this real deep, what is important to me? That question of like, what is it that is like being called forth? And I think that we do get a bit obsessed about the beginning of the year. Last year, I celebrated the Celtic New Year in April, I think. And it felt so right. It was almost like the beginning of the winter, or the May maybe, but it was like this beginning of winter setting energy in stone, and it felt really right. It felt more seasonally aligned. And then my own personal New Year that I celebrated in different ways, that felt really aligned for me. So I also think that momentum is coming forth, and without me even putting too much emphasis or effort in, but just noticing this year, definitely, I think with all of these frameworks and energetics, we can allow the things continually to fall away. So what was that 10 of, not pentacles? What was the one before pentacles that you said it was kind of a little bit more weighted? It was like not so positive. What was that one?
Yeah, swords,
Swords.
which is
Yeah.
a
Okay. What's that?
painful but necessary ending, or the rock
Yeah.
bottom.
So it's, yeah. Okay. So like we've got those two things that like those pendulum swing options of the 10 of pentacles or the 10 of swords, and they're within the same, that energy is the same. So it's going to be a momentum thing as to what comes of this year. And yeah, I just feel like focusing on the joy, focusing on the expansion and the excitement, being mindful that, if there is a lot of energy, a lot of action, just like, we don't want to eat too much food. We don't want to slow ourselves down in that way. We want to stay light. And, get creative in, say, cooking, cook better food, but like simple food, but like simple in the sense of like light, as in curries and things, but try different spices, try out. It's like that trials and tribulations moment where, you could end up with the 10 of pentacles or you could end up with the 10 of swords, but everything is happening just as it's meant to, perfectly just for you. And that feels like we get the horse to really majestically kind of propel us and be lively and be action, but I guess that's going to be the thing, that when you do start moving, if you happen to accidentally move from the fear or move from the ego, you're going to be thrown down. You're going to hit the bottom quick, because the action energy is there. It's ready to propel you in whatever direction you're taking. But I believe that that's as it should be. And maybe this is going to be even more, put a little bit more, ignite a little bit more than the snake did. So it's going to take it to that next level.
Okay, I've got something to add to that.
Oh, yeah, go.
With the tarot, with these cards, they represent things, right?
Yeah.
So the tarot was essentially invented to explain how the psyche works.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's an episode in itself. But with the 10 of Wands, the wands represent Earth. Earth representing the overextension and the burden and the carrying of too much responsibility. Now, that's not necessarily the Earth that we live on, but our body, physical tissue, represents the Earth element. So do you have anything on that, just quickly?
Yeah, no, the Earth is, so we're kind of moving from the Earth, right? So that's it sort of, it's, let's say Earth is body tissue, Earth is body mass.
Mm-hmm. And we're not born into this world, we're actually born out of it as well. That's worth mentioning. The next one would be 10 of Cups. So the cups represent water, where X amount percent water is going with the flow. But that symbolizes emotional fulfillment and then domestic harmony and joy. What's your take on that card?
So it's a bit twisty, but you can kind of, I guess we can think about it from just that momentous joy that comes from the water, which is our ancestral twine, which then brings us back to family and ignite in kind of, we can sit at the table with everyone's cups on the table. We can have those, that 10, it's kind of intimate. But it's like maybe that, what did you call that? That personal exterior. So you've got that kind of sitting at the table with that entwined into in our ancestry or our immediate family, which demonstrates our ancestry, right? The mother and the grandmother or the grandfather and things like that. So it feels like 10 cups should, it brings that from my bringing these, like, to twining that in together is like that family. It's kind of utilizing that energy of the 10 of cups to like intertwine the family and have those beautiful dinners where you sit and you chat and you drink together, and water or wine, whatever
Get
you
on it.
fancy. Like,
Whatever you're on, just get on it.
yeah, but just get coming together with that. So yeah, that feels aligned.
Okay, swords. Now this was the painful but necessary ending, rock bottom, new beginnings card. Swords represent air. It represents air because air represents mind. We can only conceptualize things if we cut them up into pieces. So hence the sword. The sword, so think of this from a mental point of view, which is the painful but necessary ending or rock bottom, which allows for new beginnings. So for me, that's like letting go of a belief system or challenging a belief system. Look at the way you're thinking and what you're creating. Look what your life is presenting back to you.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, it's like letting go of those old stories and beliefs and interpretations. And it's almost like that right before that has to happen before the wheel can spin again. Because it kind of has to surrender to what, like, we have to surrender to what truly needs to end. It's kind of interesting. I wonder if the tarot kind of moves in order. But I would see the swords happening first, almost like as the fire horse starts. It's almost like, okay, that's going to like trailblaze whatever was left of the snake that hadn't been fully shed. And that can be painful. Even recently, I read on a post, someone said yesterday that, oh yeah, I had breast cancer a few years ago and now I'm going through a divorce. And it's like, okay, there you go. Like, that is that burning off, that final trailblaze. I mean, we're not quite there. We've got a few more. Oh yeah, we will be there. That's the thing. This is the energetic release of what needs to collapse in order for the movement to move forward. So you kind of, like, yeah, releasing that false narrative, releasing that ego so that you are heart centered and you're moving forwards in this year feeling like, oh, actually, okay, I think I know now. I think I know. And when I say no, if you could see me, I'm touching my heart. It's like there's the knowing. It's like it's that deep inner heart knowing that this is the right direction in this moment. And tomorrow I might change my mind. But right now this feels right. And that for me might look like getting the kids in the car and going to the beach and feeling a bit out of my depth, having 3 kids at the ocean waves, but also going, you know what, we've got to do it.
10 of Pentacles. Pentacles representing the fire element. Thought we'd finish on the fire because that's what we're leaning into.
Ah, yeah, cool.
Representing the long-term success, financial stability, family legacy. But the fire requires all the other elements as well. So it's important to remember to not isolate, but also recognize that without air, there would be no fire. Without earth, fire would have nothing to burn. Without water, the fire would just go out of control. So
Yeah.
all these elements work within, together and within themselves. The fire is really just about getting things going. That's the action. That's in shamanism, they call that summer, the summer season.
Yeah.
Get it going.
Yeah, so it's just that, right? It's almost like it's like this core theme of being like the true abundance is quiet and is long term. It's not necessarily flashy. So it's almost finding that security in the rhythm of the year and allowing yourself to like build that up over a period of time instead of building up that foundation. So that could be where the yang fire horse starts to unground or like starts to push and get really, really excited and And then the Pentacles almost like says, no, it's patience. We need to, the foal, the young horse compared to the father horse, say. And when you were saying that, I actually thought of, we might see that the father, that real powerful masculine force comes into being in its true form. And we actually get to see that transition happen with men and our image of men that has been so tainted, where men have been seen to be such a negative, the patriarchy, down with the patriarchy. That image might actually start to shift this year with that view and idea of, that the man essentially holds the integrity, holds that stability for the family, holds that stability for the community, holds that stability for the collective. And if he can find that with action, through action, then we might see that as a collective, and the feminine that's been kind of almost trans in a way, where it's like trying to power over, it's no longer going to do that, because the feminine can rest. When the man is stable, when the masculine is patient but capable and like majestic, being that kind of focused, functional horse, then there is that majesty and there is that honor, and also that kind of that fun that can then come. Then the woman can take up the space of that creativity in that container, and also just be softer. So I think that feels really wonderful to think that maybe we're setting ourselves up with a legacy, and that's what this 10 Pentacles is kind of guiding us, especially the men, to be really conscious of. I know that we have that in a woman too, of course, and you've got your masculine drive, which is going to be ridden or awoken for sure. I just wonder if we can hold those polarities and find the joy, and just keep moving in that direction, so that we get to see that. I think it's really important that we get to see that we see the change where we're no longer fighting against each other. We're really forming a unity within ourselves, within our personal, intimate relationships, and then within the collective. That'll just flow on. And I think that's like, it's like the balanced middle ground for this sort of year, where everything is available. The momentum is there, the energy is there, the action is ready to be taken. And then it's just kind of aligning that with what feels good and comes from that heart center.
So it's taking initiative, embracing your individuality, and being patient with the growth of it.
Yeah, see, this year is that the rays of the vibes are going to get big loves, vibrant, powerful, flirty energy that's kind of, it's gonna lift us up. I think we have the opportunity here to use this year for good, and to use this year to enjoy that. In just like on a hot summer's day, let me paint the picture, sitting there by the ocean, I would have a rosé in hand, just being able to see the glistening sun against the sunset over the water. It's just like, there's just joy there with all the people running around. Like, there might be chaos happening, but it's like in that moment we can find that patience, that stability, and the joy all running around us is what happens to me, at least.
Nuala, it has been a pleasure as always. We'll have to get you on again soon, but thank you for sharing.
Let's do that. No worries, Matt. Take it easy.
You've been listening to the Body's Compass podcast with Matt Sorensen and today's guest, Nuala Walker, aka the Priestess. If you liked this week's episode, please consider giving us a 5-star rating and a warm review. Please share this episode with someone you think it might help. If you want to find out more, give us a follow on Instagram at the Body's Compass, subscribe to Matt's YouTube at Matt Sorensen Live, or swing by heelhub.net. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you next time.